Okay, this is a good end of the conclusion for Sabo's story. This is interesting. So basically, the Reverie, it comes to a close. Nefertiti Cobra's murders been kept on the wraps, at least at the beginning. We see as people are handing out posters saying, "Have you seen Vivi? She's gone missing." You see his pal is looking for. You see the different ships that are completely taken off, and we find out exactly how Wapol and Vivi ended up on the World Economic News Journal ship. Essentially, Morgan took them in because he knows that there's a story. He's like, "Look, you're a king fleeing from the Reverie for his life. You got a princess with you. There's a story here. I'm about to find out. I'm about to tell the story." And when Vivi's like, "Okay, so what did you see? Why can't I talk to my father?" And Wapol's like, "Look, last thing you need to do is start digging into your father." And so I like that we see that because it does look like Vivi knows what happened here. And so I'm going to be so curious just to see how much it is that she does know. And we see how Sabo ended up on Lulusa, and we see that he's thinking back to Koba's last words where he's like, "Hey, like, I need you to survive. I need you to get this information to Luffy and to Vivi." And so essentially the news then comes out, and then after the news comes out, we have a moment where we start getting more of the dots connected. So essentially the five elders are like, "Hey, like, Sabo, he's one of those people that has a checkered fate. No one has been affected or has not had their life affected when they've been associated with the D." And then Emu ends up coming in and starts talking to the five elders after we find out that they want to finish up their business at Aghat, which is currently going on right now. All signs look towards like Emu might actually be the final villain here. This is crazy. What the hell is the One Piece? That's my question. What the hell is the One Piece? Because this got to be connected to it. We can't be getting this damn close where Shanks has now made his move and we got all these different chess pieces going. We got this news about Emu showing up. We got Luffy and Vivi being connected. There's something here. So essentially, Emu says, "I want to use Vegapunk's creation, the Mother Flame, and we need to make sure that it can actually be used. We won't know until we actually test it." And he targets the Lulusia Kingdom. And the elder's like, "Man, there's a lot of people there. Are you sure?" Emu's like, "It don't matter. Test it on Lulusia." And it was one of those things where I was like, did he know Sabo was going there? Or is it just as he said? It just happens to be in close proximity, which means this dude is a straight savage. This dude's a straight savage. It does not matter that this is a situation where there are tons of people there, innocent people. As long as they can do a show of force and they can test out the weapon, make sure it's good. It's kind of one of those things where they're looking at like, we need to make sure that this is working before we cut Vegapunk completely off. Because if this is working, we don't need his ass no more. And so they use the excuse of, well, Lulusia was actually going up in rebellion against us. This will just plant more seeds for people to say, maybe we shouldn't mess with these folks. And so we see how essentially the Navy's been spread thin. They've been sending out the Seraphim. We see that there's a Moria clone. There's a crocodile clone. I thought that was kind of cool to see that. And so essentially as Sabo is telling them what happened as he got there, how the people took him in and how he couldn't tell them the truth because the revolutionary was just starting and they were taking him as a hero. He didn't want to take the wind out their sails because he sees the bigger picture. Ivankov has a book. And when Ivankov has a book, I'm going, wait a second, this month right here is looking something up. What's going on here? And so essentially what we find out is that Sabo, as he was getting people on the ships and everything, he sees this giant shadow that covers the entire sky. And the moment that Dragon hears this, Dragon is like, wait a second, a giant shadow. And Sabo says it's something that no living creature could ever explain. It was dark. It was way above the shadows themselves, way above the clouds. And when Ivankov hears it, Ivankov says like, hey, Emu was one of the 20 people who created the world government 800 years ago. It was the Saint Emu of the Narana dynasty. And Ivankov is putting the information out there that he found in the book and saying like, there is a means to create everlasting life in the world. And Ivankov says someone had to actually prove it to be correct. If you got someone like Emu who has been around for 800 years, it is right. And that makes sense. I'm not saying that that's who you saw in there, but it makes sense if that is him. The name by itself, it can't just be a coincidence because the five elders, they are the greatest authority. They stand above all the celestial dragons. They are the so-called descendants of gods. Who else but Emu could actually be above them? And it makes sense as to why Emu is the one sitting on the throne. Emu, for all intents and purposes, is a god. It makes sense that God sits on the throne. The way Oda does the symbolism, like my mind is like, I'm shaking right now. Like, I literally have my hand on my head as I'm recording because like my mind's blown. Because you can see Oda is planting so many seeds and it's like, this man cooking. This man cooking. We are going down where this might mess around and be the greatest piece of fiction in terms of shonen. This is good. This is good. The way that all the seeds, I can think of at least 10 things that have foreshadowed this going all the way back to the start of the story. Like the way that Oda has been planting all these seeds. And when you read stuff like this, it just makes you drop everything and want to go back and undergo that journey of One Piece all over again. Or at least it's me. Maybe I am obsessive in that way. I want to go back and I just want to read from the very start and see all the signs I've been pointing towards this very moment. And what I like here is that when Ivankov is laying out all this information, Dragon's like, you know what? It kind of makes sense. Nico Robin did say that the ancient weapons were real. And if the world government's in possession of a weapon like that, why haven't they used it until now? What's so special about right now? And that's how I know like Oda's planning something bigger than Marineford. He's planning something bigger than what we saw in Wano. And like Wano was a huge ass arc. I don't know how many years Wano took to complete because obviously I'm late to the party. But it's one of those things where I think we're going to be in this for a while. We're going to be in this for a while because Oda's telling some big plans right now. This is not something that you can wrap up in a year or two. Now, I do like how we did end off after the fact with Garland overseeing the execution of one of the men who protected one of the fishmen. It's one of those things where you need to see more of what's coming here. And ending off with an execution like this in a chapter like this, it's one of those things where Oda's telling you the best is yet to come. So that's actually my chapter question to you guys. How do you guys feel about Emu now getting active now after all this time? Why did they wait this long to use Vegapunk's weapon, in particular the ancient weapon that Vegapunk probably reactivated? Why do you think now is the time that he's using it? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.